This episode is brought to you by Flex Dealer.
Dealerships don't take the time necessarily to scale back, look at everything as a whole, and say, I need to get an accurate read on why our results are what they are, good, bad, or ugly.
Hey there, welcome to this episode of the Dealer Playbook Podcast. I'm sitting down with my pal, Colby Joyner. Hey, you remember when I promised we were going to make the playbook a playbook again? We're going to be talking about 3 ways to increase operational efficiency around a tool you already have, your CRM. Stay tuned. Colby, what's going on? Thanks for joining me on the Dealer Playbook Podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
Hey, I want to pick your brain on operational efficiency, especially around the CRM, this central tool that dealers should have as their foundational operating system. We're going to get to 3 tips that you'd recommend in just a minute, but how's it going?
I couldn't be more blessed in reality.
You spoken like a Texan. You know what I'm saying? Couldn't be more blessed.
Couldn't be more blessed. No, everything is good. Wife's good. Kids are good. Everybody's happy and healthy. Sun shines every single day. Yard's looking good. Everything's all peachy.
You just had to take a jab. If you are listening or watching, you got to go and follow Colby on social, where he posts photos of his lawn, which I don't know how golf courses haven't retained your services at this point, but every morning fun, useless side fact. Every day I think about Colby Joyner at least once or twice a day. And those are the once or twice a day that I walk up my front step and look over at my lawn, wishing that it was Colby Joyner's lawn. But we'll have a separate podcast at some point about lawn maintenance, because he's an encyclopedia. He can tell by a picture what your lawn is lacking. But it's that same attention to detail that has made you a powerhouse of process development and a powerhouse of, dare I say, logical, common sense process development. We've been talking for years, Colby, about CRMs. I remember back when I was really first starting to break out onto the scene, and every conference I went to, it was like, because you're not using the CRM properly. And obviously, as things have progressed, I just see the logic of adopting fully and once and for all the tools and resources every dealership already has at their disposal, where I know it doesn't sound sexy. I know it doesn't sound as appealing as all the new and emerging tech out there. But here we have in front of us this critical piece of software that tracks so much movement within the dealership that, in my estimation, is still not being utilized properly. So I want to turn this over to you. I want to get your thoughts on this. Why, just right out of the gates, why, from your experience working in dealer groups, aren't people yet utilizing the CRM for what it was meant to be used for?
Well, I could tell you, I know that you and I had a conversation a little bit ago, but kind of around this. One thing I will say, think about it this way. Your CRM is your day-to-day, this is what your entire variable operations operates out of. This is how you get data and reporting and metrics and everything to say, this is how you've done. This is also the same place that you engage or attempt to engage with your customers. It houses everything when it comes to your communication outward to your customers. Let's think about this. Who manages that? Who's the person that manages the CRM? Usually it's a BDC manager, internet manager, somebody that has maybe a little bit more technical expertise when it comes to operating a computer. They're the people that are getting in there managing that CRM. And then the managers, the owners, the general managers, all these, they look to this person to provide them with high level insights as to how the operation is going. Sometimes that person doesn't know how to do that exactly. And so it's such a pivotal or such a pillar of the day-to-day with the business.
Yeah.
And it's not looked at as a priority.
I see. This is what happens, guys. It's not just about lawns. It's about Colby says things. I wrote this down, dude. Who's managing the CRM? Now, you're probably listening. You're driving to work. You're driving home from work. You're listening to this and you're like, well, duh, Cirillo. No. Track with me here. We think the BDC is managing the CRM. I bet you, though, a more accurate term is that they're using and understand how to use the CRM, but they're not managing it. Nobody's actually been delegated the responsibility of managing the CRM. So talk to me about the difference, in your opinion, between managing a CRM or a software versus using it as part of your day-to-day job.
If you're going to, if you're using the CRM and you're using it as a part of your day-to-day job, you're going in there and you're going to clear notifications. You're going to do your work plan. And you're going to maybe browse through it a little bit to see if there's anybody else that you should reach out to.
Right. So
functionally, you know how to use the software. You know how to clear notifications. You know how to take an action in there. Send an email, maybe a text, phone call, click to call, you name it. Managing the CRM is taking it from the infant state that it's given to you once you have it set up. When a CRM is set up and placed into a dealership, it's done in the bare bones fashion. It's like receiving a vehicle that has zero accessories on it, has zero tune, nothing, like doesn't even have tin on it. It's the plain clear white glass, right? It is bare bones basic.
Right.
It has the ability to make phone calls and send emails and texts and all this other stuff, but most likely has a very simplified work plan, very simplified templates or templates from your previous CRM that you had in there.
Right.
So when you're looking at managing the CRM, it is far more about how do you take something from its basic state that has been duplicated across thousands of other dealerships and optimize that CRM to really be the centralized voice of communication and, from that dealership. So dealerships have the USPs that they're pushing out there. They have the common language that's going out there with everybody. Like, we say this and this is how we say it. You have to optimize that CRM to support and defend all of those pieces, and then be able to utilize the CRM in a way that you can become better day after day, week after week, month after month by looking at the tracking within the CRM, not just clicking on notifications. You have to be able to use it, manage it, build it, grow it, become more efficient in it, optimize it to God knows where.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should not be able to look. You should not, anybody that's listening should not be able to go and look in your CRM, go to the dealer down the street, look at their CRM, and it feels similar.
Yeah, right. It's the difference.
Each dealership should have its own path.
Yeah, exactly. I'm picking up what you're putting down. That's the difference between someone who manages it and someone who uses it. If I'm tracking here, somebody that manages it, their key responsibility would be to set it up, dial it in, tune it, build process through the lens of this is our central communications hub. That person is responsible then for helping the team who uses it on a daily to complete tasks, what the purpose of it is and how it is to be used and how it has been dialed in, so it's like difference between it's the difference between, if you remember that Ford versus Ferrari movie?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the difference between knowing how to drive a vehicle and then being the guy that built the vehicle who also knows how to drive it will be two different driving experiences. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I love that scene where the guy that that, you know, Christian Bale's character that has engineered the vehicle, but is also an amazing driver. He
knows what to expect.
Yes. It's a different experience. You could put that same car in front of another driver and with the same setup and everything, and it will not be driven the same way. It won't be utilized the same way. So a manager, being the person that intricately understands the drive, understands the mechanics of the vehicle and how to push it to its limits, versus somebody else that might just sit behind the driver's seat and, you know, right? Not really make anything. Hey, does your marketing agency suck? Listen, before we hop back into this episode, I know you know me as the host of the Dealer Playbook, but did you also know that I'm the CEO of Flex Dealer, an agency that's helping dealers capture better quality leads from local SEO and hyper-targeted ads that convert? So if you want to sell more cars and finally have a partner that's in it with you that doesn't suck, visit flexdealer.com. Let's hop back into this episode.
On my side, you know, I don't think it's any secret. I am far more of a, you know, and I apologize to everybody else, but I'm far more of a drive-centric expert. Like that's what I've just operated from a CRM wise for many years. Think about it this way: somebody that's just using the CRM is, you know, especially from a BDC manager, internet manager, sales manager, you name it, somebody that's making, you know, sending out mass communication and inspecting communication. If they're just looking at it and using it, they're going to send the templates as the templates are in there.
Right.
But what they don't know is that you can go to the template area and see what's the open and reply rate to those templates that you have in there currently, based off of the thousands of times that you sent it out. So why are you not going in and managing it and saying, okay, I have these 10 templates that send out more often than not. There's 2 in here that maybe have a open or reply rate of like 1%.
Right.
The other ones have a 10 or 11%. Like managing it is going into that template and saying, what do I need to fix? Using it is just resending the template.
Yeah.
Because you checked off the box.
Right. Interesting. What I'm understanding, the heart of what you're talking about here is something we've suffered with in the dealer world for too long, which is, oh, we're all car dealers, therefore we all want the same things and we all function in the same way. But the problem I see with that I've seen for quite some time, is that it's deficient in accepting that markets are different. What persuades people to buy a car in those markets is different. Social economic factors. There's federal type things that have an impact. Like right now at time of recording, interest rates are a challenge. So there's some common threads, but by and large, a rural market dealer in Wyoming is going to move and have a different pulse than a metro market dealer in New York City or somewhere in Dallas or whatever it might be. And so it's not enough to just have this tool with a stock install. It has to be customized, built, and managed, predicated upon the dealer's understanding and vision and definition of success. It's the only way it works. So
100%.
As you're working with dealers, I want to get into kind of your top 3 tips that we can share with those listening or watching on as you're going into dealerships now and consulting them and looking at their CRM process and helping them with this central communication hub that very much is a heartbeat of the variable operations. What are the common challenges you see right out of the gates? Dealer opens up their CRM for you. What's like one of the first things that you notice that could just be tweaked? And if it was tweaked, we would be in a better position.
Okay. First thing that I would say is most dealerships, they have a preconceived notion that this is the reason why things are the way that they are. Like they just say, oh, so if I'm not selling enough cars, the first thing that they think, I don't have enough leads. I don't have enough opportunities. I don't have enough people coming through the door. It's the initial guttural, like, hey, we're not selling cars. Okay. I don't have enough opportunities.
Yeah.
The problem with that is the fact that dealerships don't take the time necessarily to scale back, look at everything as a whole, and say, I need to get an accurate read on why our results are what they are, good, bad, or ugly. I need to get an accurate read on that. And then I need to take a look and see, are there problems? Because I can guarantee you at every store there is. Nobody is perfect. And so I don't mean that as a negative towards the industry.
Right.
Just there's no store that's perfect, right? There's always room for improvement somewhere. But get an accurate read as to what are these problems? What are these areas that we have good action but bad results, or inaction with bad results? Let's find these spots, communicate them with the dealership in the most simple way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, and I've been this guy, and I still probably at times am this guy, where I overcomplicate a situation based off of my experience and knowledge in that situation. So I bypass the easy things, or the things that are simple, because I've done it. I've been there. I know how it is. I know the result of this. But by bypassing that easy solution, I'm not allowing the sales manager, the internet manager, the GM, or anybody to learn and experience that.
Well, and what you're saying is like the core of it is, to get an accurate state of affairs requires that. This is the scary part, I would say, is it requires a greater level of vulnerability to look inward honestly. Right. So what I'm thinking about as you're speaking about this is, well, many would think, oh, okay, well, like, yeah, first thing I got to do is look at everyone else. I got to look at my marketing partner. I got to look at my third parties. I got to look at, do we need, who else is the problem? And there's deficiency in that, because we hear this all the time. It's like, you could talk to a dealer in Ohio who says Auto Trader's amazing. You could look at a dealer in San Antonio who says Auto Trader sucks. And therein lies this great disparity of why we require honesty at this step. We must be honest with ourselves and look inward, which requires a great amount of vulnerability.
I think that's the unfortunate thing about, and I'm probably going to I may get canceled on this piece, but I think it's the unfortunate thing about like a 20 group. You have a 20 group that gets together, and you have either a marketing 20 group or a manager 20 group, a GM 20 group, whatever it is. And you have these 20 groups that get together and they talk about, I'm doing well in this spot, in this area, with this source, or with this marketing, strategy, or whatever it is. And then the people leave and they go back and they say, hey, they're doing really well at this. I need to do this too.
Right.
Well, we're in two different markets. Even if we're 90 miles away, the markets can be different. I'm in San Antonio. I'm 3 hours away from Houston and an hour away from Austin. Houston and Austin are completely different markets than San Antonio.
Right.
If I'm talking to, Ashley Cavazos, a good friend of mine over at Demontron in Houston, if I'm talking to Ashley and I'm asking her advice on certain things, I can't necessarily take what she's saying and implement it precisely in the way that I'm here in San Antonio, because they're different markets, different customers, different types of clientele, different
challenges, different internal issues, everything.
Yeah. I think that's the downside of these 20 groups is not that 20 groups are bad. I think they're fantastic. But unfortunately, the people that are operating in a store, and I've been one of them, you get hyper focused on what's going on in your day to day. Then you leave and you go to this 20 group and you learn different ways of doing things from people across the country. You come back and you want to implement those there. You are not having a consistent track record of learning and educating yourself on what is happening right now. So that when you go to the 20 group, hey, I know that that's not necessarily something I need to mimic exactly, but I can take the general idea of that and then test and see if it's going to work
instead
with me.
Of coming home with your frantic energy because everything was pitched as if it's an absolute, no, you must be doing,
Yep.
Interesting.
And see, and I think that's the issue, is that when you're sitting here, you inherently, it's human nature to say, well, you're wrong. Well, you did something wrong, or you didn't do enough of this, or you didn't do enough of this. And I'm paying you to do this from a marketing perspective, and I'm paying you for me to get more leads or opportunities. But people don't it's not natural for somebody to say, what am I doing wrong? Where are there opportunities for me to improve?
Well,
that needs to be the first thing that gets dialed in of where am I failing and how can I support my business that I'm in right now before I start looking out. Because if I can adjust some things internally, that may give me better results on the things that I'm doing externally. Therefore, I don't need to have those conversations with that partner.
Right.
If you have solved the things internally or done your best to do that, and then you have an open communication with that partner to say, hey, we're fixing this, but we need some help with you on this. Then at that point, it becomes a full-on collaboration back and forth, not a finger pointing situation. So you have to take a look and get an accurate read on what the current situation is within your dealership, within your CRM. Are you using it effectively? And are there things that you can improve as an organization with your process before you go and spend more money on opportunities or hire more people or, transfer somebody from one department to another? You have to figure out what's going on internally first before you look out.
Okay. I love this. Get an accurate temperature reading. See what's deficient internally first, what can be improved. Before we move on to the second one, second tip of what you would recommend. I sit you down. We brought up Drive Centric. I sit you down. I'm ABC Motors. I'm 800 Elite Auto Sales. And I sit you down in front of Drive Centric. What's like maybe the first one or two clicks that you're going to take to start getting a temperature reading?
Well, if I'm coming in and looking and sitting with you, the first thing that I need to do, and it kind of goes into my second point, but the first thing I need to do is make sure that our communication is on the same level. We're talking about the same things. For instance, a lead in a certain CRM means a customer that's in there from an internet lead or a campaign lead that hasn't communicated with you. If I use that language with you in a store talking about the CRM, you may understand what I'm talking about. But if I use it with a different store and a different CRM, they may be thinking I'm talking about something else. So you have to structure a common language across the board of saying, okay, before we go and dive into this, I'm coming in here fresh. I'm coming in here. I don't work in your dealership. I don't do anything. I'm coming in here completely fresh. So being that I'm completely fresh, let's make sure that we're talking the same words. We're speaking the same language. Once we can speak the same language, then it's an efficiency of that conversation moving forward. And the first thing that we're going to be going in and looking at is, in my opinion, we're looking at the amount of engagement that your current process has with your prospective customers. I was telling somebody the other day, I'm not the guy. It's how I was kind of raised in automotive from selling cars and up, but I'm not the guy that cares whether or not you've checked off and done 100 phone calls and done 70 emails and sent this many videos and this many text messages, and you just bombarded your staff or bombarded your customers. What I care more about are what are the results that you're getting based off of the actions that you're taking. Because you could make 25 phone calls or 25 activities in general and have captured 3 appointments and sold a car that day. Now, if you can do that, make it repeatable, why not?
Right.
Why not just do it that way?
Right.
And that's just being more efficient with your time. So once we get the common language, we're going to take a look at the process and what are you expecting from the teams and what are the results that you're getting with those expectations? And is there a way for us to adapt and adjust this to where we're more efficient in our time? If we're looking at, like for instance, most dealerships, you're working an 8 to 12 hour shift. You're either working bell to bell or you're working just the shift work. If it's 8 to 12 hour shifts, let's be honest with each other. Are you 100% on up here for 8 to 12 hours? No, you have like a 4-hour max. Like for 4 hours, you may be able to be on.
Right.
Outside of that, you're either hungry for lunch, you're getting lunch, you're full from lunch, you may have a customer there, or you're waiting for the clock to tick that certain time for you to leave.
Right.
So you have like 4 hours max. In that 4 hours, do I want you to try to just bombard and do all sorts of activities, or is my preference for you to go and make sure that we're engaging or attempting to engage with the customers that are going to be most likely to respond back, and utilize the not optimized time, the other 4 to 8 hours in your day, to then reach out to prospects that haven't ever engaged with you, or maybe to try to prospect more on your own to bring them in. Because if you spend the time of your day that you are on reaching out and engaging with the customers that are most likely to engage, you're going to get the most results from that. Activity breeds activity, results breed results. As you continue to do that, you're going to have far more confidence in the conversations that you're going to attempt to have later on in the day. You're not going to say, hey, I've reached out to 80 people and only 5 people answered, and they all told me that they're not in the market. So now I'm just kind of bummed.
Right. Well, and
let's utilize the day and be the most efficient that we can every single day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, right? The oxymoron of it all is we are an industry that talks big about data. And what you're suggesting is, well, then let's finally use the data to get so going back to your step 1, to get an accurate read of the situation. And step 2, unify. What you're saying is unify the language we use so that we are all on the same page. I wrote down, you use 2 different terms. You've said leads and you've said opportunities. Of leads, you said it's an inbound, somebody's just expressed intent in some way.
Mm-hmm.
What, in your opinion, then, like, because some might be saying, well, this is semantical, like just get the job done. And I understand that there's still people in this industry that like to pound their chest and be like, burr, 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 activity, activity, activity. But in the semantics, like I can't articulate it, which is why I'm going to ask you, but I'm sensing there's a difference here. Leads versus opportunities. Well, so what's a lead? What's an opportunity?
A lead is in my opinion, in the way that I look at a CRM, a lead is a inbound customer from an internet or a campaign where a customer is expressed interest, but so far the communication between the dealership and the customer is non-existent. We have not, as a dealership, been able to engage and have a communication, have conversation, or have any response from that customer. It is still fresh. It is still a lead. We haven't discussed anything with them. We haven't had two-way communication. It is just bare bones.
This is interesting because if you watch any TV or film that has to do with police investigation, that's exactly how they refer to a lead. Hey, I got a lead. And it's a name on their notepad, or it's a tip, or it's a whatever. It doesn't become a prospect in the case for them until they have reached back, made contact, and initiated an open dialogue. Then it becomes, now it's not a lead anymore.
At that point, it's an opportunity.
Right.
Right. Because a lead is not necessarily, a lead is an opportunity in the grand scheme of things. When I'm looking at opportunities, I'm looking at any inbound or any potential communication with that customer that started during this monthly timeframe. Right. So if I'm looking at, hey, okay, we had, let's say we had 1,000 opportunities at the dealership this month. That 1,000 opportunities can be an amalgamation of internet leads, campaign leads, phone leads, showroom leads.
Right.
It's everything, any kind of customer that is a prospect and opportunity for us this month.
Yeah.
But when I'm having that clear common language communication, if I'm talking about leads, I'm talking about how do we engage with our leads better? This is talking initial communication. What do we need to do to maybe change the way that we communicate or speak or take action to get the customer to respond back and then create that two-way communication?
Yeah, because to your point, where most, if we don't unify our language and come to a common understanding and communicate more effectively, then we are prone, as you've suggested, to saying, well, I need more leads. I need more leads. I need more leads. We just need more leads. That's how we're going to sell more cars. And it's like, no. speaking of step one and getting an accurate read on the situation, once we agree on the language and what it means, to your point, then I can go and look and say, well, no, first of all, how effective are we at moving a lead to an opportunity, to an appointment, to a show, to a car sale? Mm-hmm. In that context, I don't need more leads. I may need to get better at turning leads into opportunities. And that might be the first thing that I need to focus on.
Mm-hmm. And that's where it's going to be very, very crucial, kind of going into like the third thing that we would talk about. It's very crucial to make sure that you can look at the data that is in your CRM and get a general alignment of how do we measure each step of this process with the customer and where can we find where we drop the ball. For instance, you have a lead comes in, you engage the lead. Once that happens, what's the next thing that the dealership is doing? For instance, I've seen where a dealership will have great engagement percentage. Like 70% of the customers that are coming in as a lead are getting engaged, meaning that they are responding back. There's two-way communication. So the dealership may look, hey, we have great engagement, but our results are not there. So I just need more of these leads so that I can get the results at the end. If I'm taking a look at this, the percentages of them. But what you may not look at is, okay, great. The customer responded back to our initial communication. Did we drop the ball then? Did we engage back with them as soon as possible?
Yeah. And in what way did we communicate?
Did we drop the ball?
Yeah. In what way did we communicate? The standard canonized way that's in a template? Or were we empowered to think outside the box in the way that we communicate?
Which is me personally, and I know there's several other people in the industry that have this kind of mindset on it, but I'm far more a person that is basing a process around engagement versus basing a process around activity or task. Like I would love to have more of an engagement process than a task-based process. Because look at a task-based process. Day one, which I'm never going to disagree with. Day one, phone call, email, text, video. Do whatever you can initially to try to figure out what's the best way to communicate with this customer. Because they will let you know by responding in one of the ways that you've communicated to them.
Right.
Where is the data that shows that if you make a phone call on day 3 at 2:45 in the afternoon, that's the perfect time to have a customer engage? Because even when somebody may say, well, us doing that, we've had X amount of people engaged based off of this. Well, yeah, because if you continue to repeat that process every single time and you make a phone call on day 3 at 2:45 p.m., of course, you're going to have a certain level of engagement. But where is the data out there or the psychology of it that says that, hey, this is a reason why we have a day 3. It's because this is when customers are going to reply.
Right.
The task-based process is placed in there just to make sure that the salespeople are doing something to try to engage with them.
Right.
That's all it's there for. So if we shift the mindset and instead of saying, hey, I need to have 25 robots that are going out there and just accomplishing tasks, I would rather have 20 or 15 people that are more concerned about when is the best time for me to engage with this customer based off of our current communication with this individual customer. Each person is different. And be able to look at it from an intelligent standpoint, from that salesperson's point of view, looking at their customer list and saying, okay, this is when the deal came in or the lead came in. This is the last time I've tried to do anything with this customer. And this is the last time that they responded to me. Well, if the lead came in 5 days ago, the last time I attempted to talk to them was 4 days ago, and the last time that they responded to me was 4 days ago, what have I been doing for the last 4 days? Oh, I remember. I've been waiting for that task to be put in.
I've been waiting for more leads to burn.
Or the task to be put in my work plan to remind me I need to call them. Instead, I should go in there and say, okay, this customer engaged with me that day. Maybe I dropped the ball and didn't engage back with them. So now I apologize to the customer and say, I apologize. I was with the customer, or I do something to get that customer to re-engage with us. And I effectively kind of ignore that tasks because those are going to be cleared out anyways. I'm going in and looking at what's the best opportunity for me to jump in with the 100 people that I have in my list that are that have not purchased a car from me, and who are the most important for me to call first? Who are the most important for me to email or text first to get them to continue that engagement? I want to see consistent engagement until the customer comes in. If they come in and leave, then I want to see engagement after they leave to see if there's anything that we did that we can adjust. And then once they either decide that they're buying or not buying, if they buy, great, we continue to engage with them and we put them in our customer bucket list and we call them on their birthday. We tell them happy anniversary. We do all these other things to maintain that, those prospect lists that we have. If they don't buy from us, then at that point, we figure out what they did buy. We can either bring them in for service and continue the relationship for the future, or we put them into some kind of long-term follow-up for other situations, because more likely than not, a customer is going to have somebody else in the household that will buy a car relatively quickly once one person does. You kind of have that internal jealousy at home, right? If I buy a car, my wife's going to want one shortly after, because she's like, I want a new car too, because yours runs well and smells well. Yeah. So that's just that whole, the whole look of how are we looking at the CRM and what's going to be the most conducive for you and your store. Quit worrying about adding more opportunities. Dial in on your report. Get aligned with your reporting to make sure that you're measuring things in the most accurate way possible, based off of your process, based off of your expectation of results.
Yeah.
Once you get all the data, and mind you, it's not that every single person in the dealership needs to understand and speak data. You should be able to take a mountain of data and compile it down and say, here's the top 3, here's the top 4 or 5 areas that we can take an action to improve our results from the current situation that we're in. Work on improving the numbers of what you currently have and maximize that as much as possible before you do anything else. Yeah. You should not go and have 1,000 opportunities and be selling 8% of those opportunities, right? Selling 80 cars out of 1,000, and then say, okay, I need to get to 200 cars. So for me to get to 200 cars, I need 2,500 leads to get that same. No, you shouldn't be happy with the 8%.
You won't have enough people. You won't be willing to even hire enough people to properly, effectively work.
Yeah.
Leads.
What happens at that point, what you expect is that your 8% is going to continue, and you'll go from 80 to 200. But what happens is your 8% goes down to 6%, and you don't hit the 200, and then you spent a lot more money, and then you're sitting there going, well, the leads suck.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not the leads that suck. It's that we didn't go through this process right. Let's maximize. Let's get to 10% on our 1,000 leads. Let's get to 15% on our 1,000 leads. And then at that point, now that we have a structured, fluid, very concise process, everybody knows how to work it. They're maximizing their day. Their activities are matching with what the results should be. Then we can learn. Then we learn and at its core that you have control over the knob.
Yeah,
it's like you and I are both dads. Don't touch the thermostat. Don't touch it. It's if I'm hot, I'm going to turn it down. If I'm cold, I'm going to turn it up. I don't care if you're hot or cold. Put a blanket on or take a shirt off. Doesn't matter, right? It's me. The sooner that you can understand that you have control over the knob in this whole situation, the better.
Yeah.
The only way that you know whether or not you have control over the knob is to actually understand your surroundings and what's going on within it.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. We got to recap here. Number 1, you said that we have to get an honest state of the union almost. We need to have an honest look at what is currently going on, which closely ties to step 2, because the best way to do that is to make sure we are all unified in the way that we are communicating about our communication platform, using the right terminology. While that, the difference between leads and opportunities may seem semantical, you start learning that in those details. Once you're aligned on what those mean, you can now look at the CRM to get a state of affairs, and see where, I call it small tweak territory, what the small tweaks can be made. I want to touch on the fact that you brought up building a process and a mindset around engagement, not amount of output, which was really important. And then number 3, once you've got 1 and 2 in place, Number 3 is now being able to objectively look at your data to identify areas of potential increased engagement so that you can tighten up your numbers. You don't have a lead issue. You need to know how to best effectively turn those leads into opportunities. You need to look at those numbers. Colby, my man, we're going to write a book about this someday. I've got a ferocious amount of notes. How can those, as we wind down, how can those listening and watching connect with you?
The easiest way to connect with me is on socials, either Facebook or Instagram, Colby Joyner. Colby just like the cheese, and Joyner like Jackie Joyner Kersey.
Oh, okay.
So that's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
My man, thanks so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook Podcast.
I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Dealer Playbook Podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please subscribe, share, and hit that like button. You can also join us and the DPB community on social media. Check back next week for a new Dealer Playbook episode. Thanks so much for joining.